Welcome to the Putback on SNY special playoff edition. We are on SNY's YouTube page. I'm Ian Begley, SNY NBA Insider. We got two great guests with us today. We got Marc Spears, NBA reporter insider for ESPN's Anscape, and we have CP, the Fanchise Knicks fan TV. And guys, we're going to get right into it. Let's get to the baseline because that final sequence of Game 2 is something I think Knicks fans are going to remember for a very, very long time. I thought Isaiah Hartenstein was fantastic. People might overlook that offensive rebound and then the pass that he had to OG Anunoby. Marc, what were your initial thoughts there on that sequence?
Stunned. Craziness. it was like the reverse of Reggie, right? Like, I'm still trying to put it together, and I know Knicks fans, now that they see what the referee said, are like, we didn't see nothing wrong with that. Like, everything was cool. Whereas Philly, I'm sure they're really upset and disappointed about what happened, understandably so. But that is one of those playoff games. Like, if you bring it up 5 years from now, I will always remember that. I'll always remember the craziness of it. You guys, I'm guessing both of you were there. But hey, man, I mean, that's playoff basketball. There's some craziness to it. To win a championship, you got to be healthy, you got to be great, and you got to be lucky. And so far, the Knicks are other than Julius, obviously, they're getting a little bit of all three.
Yeah, they're definitely checking those boxes. CP, what about you, man? What was your reaction? You were in the building. Is that where you were?
I was at the Knicks fan TV watch party, but it's like being in the building. It is quite the experience. But my reaction was like every other person was, what just happened? You know, what did we just witness? Down 5, the Brunson 3 was a miracle in its own right with the lucky drop, and then all of a sudden the scramble for the ball. DiVincenzo gets not one but 2 cracks at it, and the whole place goes ballistic. That is what makes Knicks fans Knicks fans. It is those magical moments at Madison Square Garden. And Marc said it, Reggie had one there, and sometimes Michael Jordan, but for the Knicks, they've had their own, and that's what makes fans.
And we're gonna go to Tom Thibodeau sound. I asked him about that 2-minute report that came out saying the Knicks had committed those 2 fouls on Tyrese Maxey. Let's hear from Tibbs.
No, I'm more concerned with the 46-minute report. No, and that's and I mean that. I knew they couldn't call a foul there. I'm watching the way Jalen's being guarded.
The Sixers grievance that they're following in the league.
I'm locked into Game 3. That's where we are. We don't get sidetracked with that stuff. I'm just like I said, I watched the whole game, not 2 minutes worth.
Take that, NBA referees. And obviously on the other side, Sixers were upset. You had Embiid reacting. You had other players reacting. You had Nick Nurse reacting. So there was a lot going on both sides. And I think that where we are now is that the Sixers, their grievance they filed, it's not going to have any impact on the result of Game 2 or anything in the series. I think they more just want to put the league on notice that they feel there's a pattern there with what's going on. And also, I think the Knicks have stirred it up a little bit by putting in their media notes the analytics on the referees for that night's game. They've got a full breakdown of where that ref ranks among his peers in foul calls, overturn calls, and it's fascinating that they did throw that in there. And I thought it might backfire. Maybe the refs would take it personally, but so far they've gotten a pretty good whistle. We'll see.
Bring it out again. Hey, that's what works,
we'll see. Do you guys? I mean, Marc, you've covered a lot of playoff series. Do you think that the Sixers saying what they said, Embiid complaining about the officiating, you think that'll impact the way the game is called when you go to Philly games 3 and 4?
No, because it's a different crew. It's 3 different guys or gals, depending on who the crew is. And you could be mad all you want, and understandably so, but I think that Tyrese Maxey probably said it best. It's like, I got to worry about game 3. It's not going to change anything. They're not going to do no miraculous. All right, we're going to play the last seconds over. It's over. It's done with. And dwelling on it, I remember there was a team in the Spurs that I think they had a hangover after losing that crazy game 6 to the Heat. Ray Allen shot in the finals, and I think that carryover ended up costing them game 7. The Sixers aren't in a position right now to have a hangover. Once a series truly never starts till a team loses at home. And so if they lose game 3, I mean, it's a must win. If they lose, it's over. I mean, it's pretty much over. So they can't worry about that anymore. They got to take care of home.
Yeah, that the arguing for calls or politicking for more calls, that's always fascinated me around playoff time. I've seen it as a kid when Phil Jackson used to complain about the Knicks' physicality when he was coaching the Bulls. We just saw last year J.B. Bickerstaff would complain as well when the Knicks beat the Cavs in the first round. And so it's a by any means necessary strategy, especially when the playoffs, when both teams know each other so well. How well will it help Philly? I'm not so sure. I mean, when Nick Nurse first complained after game 1, Philadelphia only lost a free throw battle by 4 points. Joel Embiid led all scorers with free throw attempts. Now in game 2, that last second scramble, as Tom Thibodeau said, I did not expect the referees to call a foul there. This is playoff basketball. Those end of the game type of scrambles, it's very rare that you're going to see them call it tight in those situations. And so for the Knicks, I expect game 3 to be their hardest fought game, and they're just going to have to overcome any obstacles that they face.
Hey, guys, we're going to get to Tom Thibodeau right now, but real quick, CP, I heard that the next Knicks fan TV watch party, drinks are on you after that final sequence. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Everybody's on the house?
Yes. And we will be doing a 2-city tour. So Philly and New York will have it covered this weekend.
There you go.
Moet, baby. Let's get that Moet going.
And Mark, you know where to go.
Top shelf stuff. Let's go.
That's right.
Thibodeau, not a Coach of the Year candidate. I thought he did a really good job coaching a Knicks team that had its injuries, had its peaks and its valleys. He navigated it really well. And that anonymous poll from The Athletic saying that he was the coach that players least wanted to play for, I just wonder who some of those players are. And I would think that after they saw what happened, ended game 2, they were probably sitting at home on their couch and just wishing they could be a part of that, because that was something special. That was a moment that those guys, the Knicks at least, are going to take with them for the rest of their lives. And now you look at Thibodeau, players have kind of rallied around him. Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, both voicing their displeasure with where he was Coach of the Year candidacy, missing out on that. And Tom Thibodeau is never going to admit it publicly, but I think he appreciates that. He's not going to say it publicly, but he's a human being. I think he hears the noise and he appreciates when his guys come out and have his back. But Mark, you covered Tom Thibodeau in Boston. You were covering the Celtics when Tom was an assistant coach, when the Celtics won a title. Just your thoughts on his evolution as a head coach and what you see that he's done this year.
You know what my problem with Tom is? Mm-hmm. And you know this. He's actually a really funny guy. Mm-hmm. I think he could moonlight as a comedian. But I don't know that the fans get, CP, I don't know if you get to see that or you've been privy to much of that. But I've had a drink with him, and he's the life of a party kind of guy, but come basketball time, it's all business, it's straight lace. But yeah, no, I known Coach from, I guess, before the last time he was really an assistant, and really happy for his ascension, after coaching KG, Paul, and Ray. Very, very hard-nosed guy, tough guy, the architect of that Celtics championship defense. And, typically if you don't like the coach, that means they're a winner, right? And if you look at the other 3 candidates that were up, those are basically teams that nobody expected anything. So I don't know if I would take offense to it. I mean, like, who thought the Thunder would be the number 1 seed, right?
Right.
Minnesota got number 3 seed. Who would have expected that? And then also the Magic. So I think maybe Tom Thibodeau's a victim of the team's own success. It not being as big a surprise as perhaps the other three candidates, but that doesn't lessen the amazing job that he's done.
CP, where are you on Thibodeau in the playoffs so far? You give him credit for what's happened, or is it more players? How do you see his coaching job thus far?
He certainly deserves credit for what's happened over the last 2 games. If you just look at the circumstances under which they've won these games, with Jalen Brunson not playing at his best, the supporting cast has stepped up. All the guys who've contributed over the last 2 games, Josh Hart, Miles McBride, Isaiah Hartenstein, even Bojan Bogdanovic. I mean, these are guys who, for the most part, can give credit to Tom Thibodeau for helping them have career years. Dante DiVincenzo as well. Even look at that last sequence, Ian, as you alluded to earlier at the top of the show. When Hartenstein gets that offensive rebound, number one, he had to crash the glass to get the rebound, then have the smarts and the poise to pass it to OG Anunoby, who then found Dante DiVincenzo for the second 3. So that poise, that composure just shows how prepared the Knicks are to handle those chaotic situations. And in that regard, Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit.
I'm up here at the Knicks practice facility in Westchester, and about 2 hours ago, we were talking to some players. We asked Jalen Brunson about his series thus far and his thoughts on the shots that he's getting. And he was asked about a specific defense and how he could adjust to it. I thought his answer here was interesting. We're going to hear it right now.
The easy answer is just I need to adjust. I need to be more poised and just understand what they're doing and just honestly just flat out be better. It's just there's no gimmicks to it. It's just Jaylen, you need to be better, and it's plain and simple.
CP, you've watched Jalen Brunson since he's been in New York, and you know what he's done. What's your concern level right now with his play going into Game 3?
Not as concerned, just based on the play of the supporting cast. Look, the wing matchup is always going to be tough for Jalen Brunson. We've seen it over the last 2 years. Wings will give him trouble. The difference is now with Philadelphia is that not only does he have to deal with the wing at the point of attack, once he gets past that wing, he's got Joel Embiid manning the middle. And so I think that puts Jalen Brunson in a situation where he's got to think a bit, or he's got to take a bit more time to make a decision whether or not that wing is going to recover off the screen and block a shot, or can he take Embiid to the rack. And so, to give Philadelphia a lot of credit between Oubre, Tobias Harris, Nicholas Batum, they've done a good job of pressuring the ball, limiting his airspace, and keeping him at bay in off-ball situations. Another thing for Jalen Brunson, he has had opportunities where he can get into his pull-up jumpers. They just haven't been hitting. The touch around the rim just has not been there. So as Jalen Brunson said, he just has to stick with it and stick with the game plan. The Knicks have to continue to try to force those mismatches, and when they do have it, because there will be small windows of opportunity, he has to cash in on it. So I'm hoping that Game 3 will be it for him, because he needs to step up and help this team close this out.
Marc Spears, you have a great feature that you did on Jalen Brunson on ESPN's Anscape, and certainly go check that out. You can find it on the website. You can find it on Marc's Twitter page at Marc J. Spears. Marc, what did you learn about Jalen through your reporting process in that story?
It's incredible how humble he is. Like he one of the stories I wanted to put in there but didn't allude to was when I interviewed him after the game against the Warriors in San Francisco. And obviously Dante and Josh, they're gonna mess with their old Villanova friend, right? And they were kind of giving him a hard time about, being this new star after the game. And I could kind of tell he wasn't really comfortable with that. Like he just, his parents have done an amazing job raising him to be extremely humble. Everything goes back to the team. When you talk about him being an all-star, I don't get there if it wasn't for my team. Commercials, I don't get there if it wasn't for my team. Everything is about the team. And if you think about the flamboyance of some of the biggest stars in New York history, the Babe Ruths, the Jeters, the Namaths, right, the LTs and Patrick Ewing, like he's not that, right? He's not going to come out there and dress flamboyant, say anything flamboyant, put any bulletin board material. He's not even saying a lot of jokes, kind of milquetoast in his interviews, right? But he's very, very proud of what he's been doing. Yet he he's also like, I'm as good as my last game. I'm not going to get too excited, get too high, too low. And I think that's what makes him such an interesting star in New York, is because he's not seeking the bright lights of Broadway. He's not going to be out there dancing with the fans after the great wins, right? He probably just sneaking into his private car and heading out to, I'm guessing, Westchester. He probably keeps it low key and doesn't do what McDyson live in Manhattan, right? He probably lives out, and so he's, it's easy to go to New York and take that stardom and rise and just rise above the city, but he has no interest in doing that. He just wants to win games.
And Mark, one thing I wanted to ask you about too is Julius Randle is somebody who you've gotten to know really well. Oh, I think we have lost Mark for a second, so I'll get back to him on that. But CP, obviously, Mark talking about his story on Jalen Brunson and just Brunson kind of not seeking the attention. He's certainly getting it, though, because of his play. And one thing I found interesting, I made a note of this in an article, game 2, he's struggling again. And I think he was 6 for 21 at one point. And I'm watching the game, and then I'm looking at Carmelo Anthony on the baseline, and I'm like, Carmelo went 6 for 21 in a playoff game. He'd be getting booed off the floor. And then I was thinking about Julius Randle. I mean, same thing. Literally would be booed off the floor. And I didn't hear anything with Brunson, not after misses, not even groans or grumbles. And to me, that speaks to the love and the trust that the fan base has in Brunson and this group because of what they've done so far. And I think they've earned that trust. I mean, what do you make of that? Just not a boo in the Garden at all during those shooting strokes.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it's early, and once he gets that max contract, which will be close to, I think, $50 million, I think then the expectations will increase, and we'll see what happens there. But no, Jalen Brunson, as you said, he's certainly earned that from the fans, especially after the season that he's had this year, leveling up again, finishing 5th in the NBA. And also the playoff run that he had last year, really being the only guy that can perform consistently and really helping this Knicks team succeed. And so, again, just a couple of struggles in these first 2 games, but he has to stick with it. Philly's defensive game plan has been really good, but I think Brunson will be better as the series progresses.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. Mark, we appreciate you jumping back on with us. I wanted to ask you, because I know you spent time around many of these Knicks players. Julius Randle.
Just give me a name and I'll tell you a story. Just,
You know what? I'm going to ask you about Julius, but one thing I want to say quickly on Julius is Dante DiVincenzo said this was something that had kind of gone under the radar, and he was talking about Julius checking in with his teammates and being very vocal and being a presence with his teammates while he was rehabbing and now while he's recovering from surgery. I asked Jalen Brunson about it today. He didn't want to spill too many details, but he said basically, yes, it's still happening. Julius is being Julius. I think he's pretty misunderstood by some Knicks fans. I don't want to say all Knicks fans, but I think he is misunderstood for various reasons. What are your impressions of Julius just based on the time you've spent around him?
Well, I'll say this. He was definitely misunderstood to me. First met him when he was with the Lakers. Didn't really get to know him. Kind of fell into that belief that he had some big ego and everything. And then when he was in New Orleans, his agent called me and Aaron Mintz and was like, hey, would you like to get some time with Julius? I'm like, yeah. So I actually went to his home in New Orleans at the time, and he had some cooked some tacos for us that were really, really good. Remember that? And just sat down, 2 guys sitting down, had a nice interview with him. And, I've had a great rapport with him since. Just a really down-to-earth guy who wants to win, wants the best for his team. Obviously is an outstanding father. And he's definitely one of those guys I felt bad for. I know he wanted to be back, and it's sad to see what happened to him.
Yeah, he definitely worked hard to get back. And CP, where are you in terms of everybody? I think every Knick has had his moment so far over the first 2 games, but who's impressed you the most so far in this series?
I got to go with Josh Hart. And I said on my show, that's my X factor. And my X factor has been X factoring in this series. 21 points, 14 rebounds, 53% from three. As we just talked about Julius Randle, his presence is sorely missed on this team. And that means that Josh Hart has to do a lot more. And he's doing that. He's scoring. He's stepping into his 3-point shot, set a big tone for this team. First half, Game 2, rebounding as well, and then pushing the fast break so that if the Knicks have a mismatch in the numbers, that they can get some advantageous situations and be able to score points. So Josh Hart, what we're seeing is the emotional leader of this Knicks team. You saw the embrace between Josh Hart and John Starks after Game 2. And I think the number three connection, John Starks sees a lot of himself in Josh Hart because Josh Hart is the emotional leader. He is that version of John Starks that we had in the 90s, but he's got that versatility of like, he's been great so far in this series. Has to keep it up.
All right, Mark, I'm throwing a name at you. Josh Hart.
Josh Hart, that's my fellow wine guy, man. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a big-time wine guy. And when we were heading out to the bubble, I was trying to one-up him, man. I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, I'm bringing a wine suitcase to the bubble. He's like, yeah, okay. He's like, I think he had one too. And anybody doesn't know, it's like a literal bougie suitcase with like 16 bottles of wine in it, that I brought specifically to bubble. And then he goes, but do you have a fridge in your room? Do you have a wine fridge in your room? And I'm like, actually, that's a good idea, right? So when I'm on the plane heading to the bubble, I ordered a wine fridge in Orlando that was in solid proximity to where we were staying. And so on the way to the bubble, I had the van that picked me up, go take me to the Best Buy. And you couldn't go in to get it. But I had to like go to the door. This is pandemic time. And they wouldn't let me get the fridge. So Josh got one up on me. And so then I get in and we're quarantined for like 10 days. I believe it was like 10 days. And so I kept asking the mail people in the bubble, like, did my wine fridge showed up? Yeah, it's here. When you get out, you can come get it. So when I get out, it's missing. It's gone. Like, I don't know why it's gone, but it's gone. Like, I got delivery notification from Best Buy, but it's gone. I think somebody gangstered my wine fridge in the bubble, man, because all of a sudden the NBA said, we have a replacement for you. It will be at your room tomorrow. So there's some dark knowledge on something that happened in the bubble that shouldn't have happened. But somehow I got a wine fridge from the NBA as a replacement that was a little better than the one I ordered. But I appreciate Josh for giving me some insight on getting the wine fridge. And he said he has some bottles of wine for me that I haven't been able to taste yet.
No, knowing Josh's competitive nature, I think he got involved in the delivery, got in the way there, the delivery chain.
He might have gangstered it from me, man. Yeah. Maybe he didn't have one and he took mine.
Knicks, Sixers, Joel Embiid. We're in the middle of the series. Everybody's focused on Game 3, Game 4, going to Philly. But big picture, Mark, we have a little segment we like to call Stargazing, and that's where we're going to go now. We talk about who may or may not be coming to the Knicks. James Dolan on the record is saying he brought Leon Rose here. One of the reasons was because he can attract the best players. So the star search is still on the horizon for this Knicks team. If Philadelphia loses, Mark, they lose in the first round, what do you think that means for Embiid's future, their future, and if anything? Or do you think
I think they need to have a quiet summer for once.
Mm-hmm.
I still like their team. I mean, and I'm doing a piece on Tyrese Maxey that's running tomorrow. He's had a fantastic season. He's a superstar. If anything, you just get a couple pieces to help this team out. I'm not ready to change anything. Just have a quiet summer for once. My biggest question is, will Embiid be healthy enough to play for USA basketball? That's what I want to know. But other than them getting some peripheral pieces to help the team, just have a quiet summer for once. Just quiet. They've had too much.
A lot of non-basketball stuff there, and they will have a ton of cap space for the summer. Paul George has been reported.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, they could get Paul.
Nobi.
I
Yeah, that
just
would be.
can't see. I don't. OG wanted to be in New York. Like that was his choice. He could have come out west. There were teams that wanted him. He wanted to be in New York. I see him staying in New York. And in terms of Paul George, being in LA is really big for him. Like his parents are sitting courtside at the game. He told me once that the ability to have your mom and dad at every game mean a tremendous amount to him. So I'd be stunned to see him in a Sixers uniform, especially, add to the fact that the Clippers are going into a new arena in LA. I think it's probably just a leverage thing more than anything. But I could see Paul George finishing his career with the Clippers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he obviously is looking for a number that they haven't been willing to go to yet. We'll see if that changes and the Clippers get there at some point. CP, I'm curious, man. Knicks up 2-0. We'll see what happens for them rest of the postseason. At what point would this team have to reach for you to say, forget about stars? I want to run it back with this group. I want to run it back with a healthy Julius Randle. Let's just bring the band back. What would you need to see? Where would they need to get for you to take that approach?
I still think that they're going to need to get another, reliable star player to take them over the top. That's the hardest thing to do. How do we match up with the Denver Nuggets or the best of the West? How do we say that we are definitively better than the Boston Celtics? I'm not so sure running this back and just adding Julius Randle to the mix is going to get it done. This Knicks team is very good, and I think they will be competitive even throughout this series, but I'm still looking to see who is that guy that can take them over the top. For me, when the Philadelphia fallout was happening between Harden and Daryl Morey, I said, hey, maybe look into Embiid, but with the injury history now, that's a major concern. And so if I'm the Knicks, I would not look that way. Maybe Giannis with Milwaukee. We'll see what happens there. Is Giannis still committed to what they're doing there? I'm not so sure. But, for the Knicks, I still think that they need to upgrade things. The biggest question for me is, with the way that Dante DiVincenzo's playing, the year that he's having, are the Knicks going to completely pivot away from a potential Donovan Mitchell pursuit in the offseason and stick it out with the Nova trio? They have the chemistry there. He's at home there. But I still think that the price for Mitchell is going to be lower for the Knicks. They will have more leverage in a pursuit this time rather than the last time. I'm very interested to see where they go this summer if they do make a change at the two.
Yeah, quick.
I like this team, man. I still do. I know New Yorkers, you guys like to stargaze all the time, right? I wish you'd appreciate the stars you have just because maybe they're not flamboyant enough. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you could get Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Giannis, of course, right? But I'd like to see what this team, like if Julius was healthy, I think they could challenge the Celtics. I think they would have enough firepower to do it. And you got to think about like how this team would be with a, OG signed and with a training camp under his belt. They kind of remind me in a lot of ways of those Piston teams in the 2000s. Like there wasn't a LeBron James, a Carmelo Anthony, so to speak, on that team, but collectively they were a great team. I mean, when you look at that, and hey, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the last Knicks team to win a championship, they were collectively a great team. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a Bill Russell. They didn't have a Wilt Chamberlain. But I still think this Knicks team, if healthy, collectively can be good enough to challenge for a title, And sometimes, you star too much to get those stars. You got to give up the moon, the stars, and the mountain, right, to make that happen. So it might be best just to leave this team alone and make sure that they're healthy. I hope that they're healthy to see what they truly can do.
Just a quick note from me on Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks were very aggressive on Donovan a couple summers ago when he was in Utah. I don't think that right now, as we sit here today, I don't think their level of aggressiveness or how hard they would go after Donovan Mitchell is at the same level today as it was a couple of summers back. Things change over the course of the postseason. We'll see how it all shakes out. But I don't get the sense that it's we're going hard after Donovan like it was a couple summers ago. We'll see. Just a quick note there, and let's get back to the series to wrap it up, guys. Mark, for you, I'm wondering. You look at Game 3 in Philly Thursday. What's a key player to watch for you on Philadelphia in that game?
Meek Mill. Is Meek Mill showing up? Nah, I'm joking. It's Embiid. It's Embiid at home. It's Embiid's body because he's capable of just putting out a monster game, getting a bunch of people in foul trouble, just basically controlling and winning the game on his own and having some defensive play. So if he's spectacular, he has to be spectacular. Because, again, you guys got the Detroit Pistons team, man. I know you don't want to buy into Detroit, but y'all got that almost like that Memphis grit and grind, blue collar. I'm from Queens squad, man. So, I know you got all those celebrities out front, but this is a blue collar team. And they're not going to die. They're not going to give up. They're going to fight to the end. But Joel Embiid has to be Joel Embiid for them to win this series and to win Game 3.
And CP, for you, which Knick are you looking at as a key for Game 3?
Number 11, Captain Clutch. This is going to be the toughest game that they play. Going on the road might not be hostile environment because, as you guys talked to them about today, the Nova connection, there may be a lot of Knicks fans.
No. They boo Kobe. They boo Beyonce. This is Philly now. Come on now. You know. Maybe you forgot.
I didn't see many Philly jerseys even in the Garden. I didn't see many jerseys in the Garden.
In the country. The Philly fans. Oh, and you boo Beyonce? Like, come on, man. They boo Santa Claus. They don't care that them dudes went to Villanova right now.
Well, the Knicks fan travels well to Philly, Mark, but I do think that it'll be different for a playoff game. Maybe I'm wrong, but the building gets so loud in Philly, and it's a different ticket.
No, but that don't mean the Philly fans will love the Villanova guys.
No, but what CP was saying was because the Knicks fan travels to Philly usually so well. Will they have support in the building? I think
you think there's going to be seats.
Hey, the seats on Ticketmaster right now, Mark.
Really?
Face value.
Okay.
I'll be there Sunday. Really? I'll be there for Game 4. Yeah. Listen, I was sitting in front of Philly fans at the Garden. They were in plain clothes. They were so ashamed to be in the building. The guy, he said, "Hey, don't tell anybody. I'm a Philly fan." I don't know, man. They weren't that heavy, but
hey, y'all punking Philly now.
Hey, it might be, man. But yeah, just to wrap, I think Jalen Brunson. I like to see him set a good tone for this team on the road. Look, the supporting cast has been great, but you don't want to lean on them to carry you through this series. He's got to be great for them. Keep at it. Continue with the game plan. Free him up. Get him on those mismatches against Maxey and Buddy Hield, and see if he can go to work from there.
Well, look, we're going to leave it there. Marc Spears, ESPN's Anscape, CP the Fanchise, Knicks Fan TV. Can't thank you guys enough for your time and your insight. We really appreciate it. We will be back Monday, our next Putback episode during this series. We'll see where the series sits then after Game 4. Be sure to keep it locked on Honda Sports Night every night for your Knicks coverage in between now and then.
CP, I need my hat.